Dr. Berggren, thank you for coming here today. What is your full name, and when and where were you born?
Well, my full name is Ronald Bernard Berggren. I was born on Staten Island, New York, 1931.
Your parents' names?
Bernard Berggren and Florence Margaret, well, her maiden name was Schmidt. So the background of that, my mother was second generation German-American. My father was first generation American, Scandinavian American, Norwegian and Swedish.
Okay. And what did he do?
He worked for the one of the insurance companies in New York, and he was sort of an accountant. One thing I will say about him, we went through the 30s, and he hated his job. We always had an income. We never felt poor. And it was one of the things I admired about him, that he went through this so wonderfully.
Did your mother, was she a stay-at-home mom, or did she have any?
She was after I was born. In the latter parts of the war, she did get a job in the shipyard, which eventually helped with my education.
Okay. Your children?
We had two children, a boy and a girl. They're married, have two children, each a boy and a girl. That's population growth control.
Yes. And your wife's name?
Mary Beth Griffith was her maiden name.
Okay. And how did you meet her?
Well, I'm going to make it very short. It was on an unscheduled blind date when I was a freshman and she was a sophomore in college.
Okay. And again, tell me, where did you go to college?
I went to Hopkins, and she went to Goucher, which was the sister school in those days. Now it's co-ed.
What inspired you to go into plastic surgery? And tell me about the mentors that you had.
Well, I had a number, and I would start, as I said earlier, with my father. He always supported things that I wanted to do with such an easy way that I never knew he was doing it, kind of. The first interest I had in medicine, and this may sound strange, he would go fishing off Sandy Hook and bring blues and other fish in, and we'd clean them on the back porch, and I was fascinated with the anatomy. And then I started, he'd buy me books, and The Century of the Surgeon, Military Surgery, you know, all of these books. And I read them, and I never felt that they were pushing me to do something, but I loved them. And I decided I wanted to be a physician. Went to Hopkins, eventually got admitted to the University of Pennsylvania Medical School, went through medical school there, and I guess it was in my junior year, there was a lot of pressure then to be a general practitioner, they called it, not family medicine. And I was biting on that a little bit, and suddenly in my junior year I said, damn it, surgery is medicine to me. So I went and got the surgical residency at Penn. I thought about plastic surgery because it was different from surgery in general, because most of it was not, if you can't cure it, cut it out. It was restorative or rebuilding, and it appealed to me. So I went in the program, and there I met another mentor, Henry Royster, who was a wonderful Southern gentleman, fine surgeon, very paternalistic toward his residents, which I never was, and also very wise clinician.
You see momentous changes and paradigm shifts in plastic surgery during your career. Just tell me some of the ones that stand out most to you that just...
Well, the one thing, one of the things that stands out is with this great growth of cosmetic medicine associated with plastic surgery. And I thought of Joe Murray. He said one time he was feeling the same way, that you're taking 6 years of surgery and then sucking fat out of people didn't seem to be using your talent sufficiently. And so I think it's come to give the public's attitude toward plastic surgery different from what I've thought about plastic surgery, and I think a lot of others have thought. And I think that's been a big change. It used to be almost everybody did plastic surgery, but they did it on Saturday. And now they're out there selling it like they're selling shampoo. And that one has bothered me. Now, on the good side, certainly the big things that have come along to change things was microsurgery. And that has really blossomed over the last 20 years or so and gotten into, and also craniofacial surgery. Both of those are highly technical, often need a team. It's harder to organize. You can't go out and practice very easily, one guy, and do these things unless you have it set up properly. I think what probably going to be the next big thing is tissue engineering.
Yes.
And the ability in using stem cells to build on with the person's own tissue things as complicated as ears, nasal structures, eyelids, and more. Extremities. It's going to be probably another 30 years or more before it's really honed to its ultimate utilization.
What do you feel is your greatest professional accomplishment?
I spent about 30 years on the Accreditation Council, ACGME, and in my final several years I chaired the committee that wrote the institutional review requirements. And it was an initiative we took because we felt that rather than have each of the fiefdoms in an institution be unto themselves, that the institution had to have some overall review of them and be held to a standard for their support. And it goes both ways, support and oversight. And that finally has gone in place. It still exists. I think it's worked well. And since I chaired that committee, I was very happy that we got that through.
Who do you admire most, is it professional or personal, and living or not?
Well, I think I would, as a personal individual, I would admire most my father for how he handled himself. He never had a college education. His parents wanted him to be an engineer. He went to a trade school and for a year, a high school type of thing, and he ruined so much lumber that they made him bring his own. And so he finally got working in accounting and in a bank, and he worked during the 30s and the 40s. We lived on Staten Island. The Verrazano Bridge was not there. You were not allowed to have bus service through Jersey, even if you didn't stop. And you notice I'm a New Yorker, I call it Jersey. Anyway, he would go, he would take a bus, change a bus, take the ferry, take a train, change the train. It was an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and a half hour each way.
Winter, summer.
Right. And during the war years, he worked half a day on Saturday. Oh, wow. So he traveled 3 hours to work 4.
Your words of wisdom for present and future generations of plastic surgeons.
I hope they will always remember the basis of plastic surgery and work with the core and recognize it's not going to be what it was when they started as it will be at the end when they quit. Because there's going to be a lot of changes, and you got to go with the flow. Not only in plastic surgery, but in healthcare organization, in regulation. We don't like regulation, and yet you see people that don't behave unless they're regulated, and you can't go. You can be regulated. You can't be regulated. You can be regulated. It doesn't work. You got to have some sensible application of that.
Your words of wisdom for retirement.
Well, the first thing is don't be afraid of it. When you're ready to retire, do it. Secondly, don't hang on because you have nothing else to do. There's a whole world out there. And don't think you're going to play golf for your entire retirement. There are only so many golf balls you can hit. Look at what your passions were when you were young. See what had to give up. Then you can do it now. I've looked at some of these things in the plastic surgical news, and one that struck me recently, and I can't remember the name of the retiree, they said, "What are you doing in your retirement?" He said, "I'm just working around the place." He said, I can keep up the place like I always wanted it kept up, and I can do it myself, and it's a joy for me to do it. Now, that works so long, and then your physical capacities start to slip off. But there are a lot of other things you can do. There are model trains, there are reading, just reading, writing. I had a lot of time to write before, not just medical things. Keep the joy in what you're doing. And when you lose that, look for something else.